Well, welcome to another Bible Truth YouTube, Facebook broadcast. I'm Evangelist Tom Gillum. I'm an itinerant evangelist, believes in expositional preaching. I like to do it line upon line, precept upon precept. I like to do it in a series form. I like to do it with enthusiasm. It's a joy today to have you here on the broadcast. I hope you'll have a Bible handy, notebook, something to write with. We'll find our text today in the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, and verse number 7. We have now for several broadcasts, and for a few more we will look at a series of messages from this verse. The writer of Hebrews says, "Remember them which have the rule over you, who have spoken unto you the word of God." The word remember has the idea of not the present past, but the distant past. He said to meditate, muse, to ponder those that have shared the word of God in a distant, bygone day. He asked us to consider several things. One, he said, whose faith followed. He said, find out what kind of faith they had and seek to mimic it. He said, considering the end of their conversation, he said, find out how they crossed the finish line, how they ended their life, and seek to live that same kind of life. And so we've been preaching in these days on the subject, is there any among us like these? We've looked at Jonathan and Sarah Edwards. We've looked at David Brainerd. We've looked at William Tyndall. We've looked at John Patton. For the last three broadcasts, we've been looking at William Cowper, the great songwriter of yesterday. Today, if I can, I want to finish up his life. Is there any among us like this great songwriter of yesterday? Remind you of William Cowper. He was born in 1731 and died in 1800. He only lived 69 years. He spent most of his life as a manic depressant and died in a depressed state. We've looked at keys to his life. We've looked at the kinks in his life. He was in a mental institution for a long time. That's where he was gloriously saved. But yet he lived in the dark throes of depression. We looked at the killings of his life on several different occasions. Tried to kill himself but failed. He was even a failure at trying to kill himself. We noticed the kindness for his life and pastoring kindness. John Newton, the man who wrote Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, pastored William Cowper for a number of years. Even in his last days when he was a recluse and lived in one room, Newton would write him every week and encourage him to keep writing poems that could be turned into music. And there was all of that hope given to William Cowper, even in his darkest despair of dark depression. Today I want to finish up with the kisses from his life. I want to share 5 things today with you that I've learned from William Cowper's life. And I want to center them around some songs which Cowper gave to us, which is such the center of our worship in these days. One of them is, there is a fountain filled with blood, drawn from Emmanuel's veins. Sinners plunge beneath that flood, lose all their guilty stains. And sinners plunge beneath that flood, lose all their guilty stains. Old Cowper said, ere since by faith I saw the stream, thy flowing wounds supply, redeeming love has been my theme and shall be till I die. Cowper said, when this poor lisping, stammering tongue lies silent in the grave, then in a nobler, sweeter song I'll sing thy power to save. Oh, I don't know about you. I don't testify for you today. I'm so glad this day that God left old William Cowper in the throes of manic depression, that it would come out of him that great song, There is a Fountain Filled with Blood, drawn from Emmanuel's veins. The first thought that I have learned from William Cowper's life is the idea that depression is often an unresolved, wounded spirit, is often the center of depression. There was a lot about William Cowper's early life. His mom died, his daddy was a drunk, and even gave him a book one day on how to kill himself. And I think a lot of that was the key of an unresolved, wounded spirit that was so deep that it left Cowper in such throes of depression. Another thought that I have learned from William's life is this thought. Just right before his death, a couple of weeks before his death, he told his doctor, he says, I feel in unutterable despair. The last words that Cowper said was to a lady that had taken care of him and waited upon him. She tried to get him to get up out of the bed and eat a little breakfast. And his last words were, what good would it do? And to think about the great despair of depression. I think about in that great despair, song like this come out of it. God moves in a mysterious way His wonders to perform. He plants His footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never failing skill, He treasures up His bright design and works His sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. Clouds you so much dread are big with mercy and shall break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust Him for His grace. Behind a frowning providence, He hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast. Bad may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower, and blind unbelief is sure to err and scan His work in vain. God is His own interpreter, and He will make it plain. Oh, my friend today, I don't know about you. I'm glad God left William Cowper in the dark throes of depression, that such songs would come forth out of him that would help us in this hour. The third thought that I have learned from Cowper was this: acknowledge His glory and His relief in the least times of depression. And let us distrust the least despair of depression that might come in our lives. And let us immediately run to the light of the Word of God and drench ourselves in it. It was one of the things that William Cowper said the first time. God delivered him from depression while he was reading a book of poetry. He did not give God the glory, and he did not run to the light. Oh, may we learn that ourselves as we look at his life. Let me also mention another song that William Cowper wrote. The name of it was, "Oh, for a Closer Walk with God, a calm and heavenly frame, a light to shine upon the road that leads me to the Lamb. Return, O holy dove, return, sweet messenger of rest. I hate the sins that made thee mourn and drove thee from my breast. The dearest idol I have known, whatever that idol be, help me to tear it from thy throne and worship only thee. So shall my walk be closer with God, calm and serene my frame, so pure a light shall mark the road that leads me to the Lamb." I don't know about you, friend. I'm glad that God led William Cowper into the dark throes of depression, that such music may come forth from him. I would mention another thought from the life of Cowper's that I have learned. Poor mental health comes when we use the mind to focus on unworthy things outside of ourselves. Oh, let us focus only upon him. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. Things of this earth will grow strangely dim. Then the fifth thing, may God raise up in this day some John Newtons to help some William Cowpers. I am convinced after studying William Cowper's life that inspiration can come out of insanity. Glory can come out of gloom. Strength can be birthed in weakness. It certainly shows. Is there any among us like these? Well, it's been a joy to have you on the broadcast again today. Remind you of our study website, tomgillum.com. Weekly Bible studies, daily devotions, probably over 1,000 of each one archived there. Audio section, you can also hook up to these YouTube broadcasts, tomgillum.com. If I can help you in any way, if I can pray for anything, if you're interested in a meeting, you can email me at tbgillum@aol.com. Thanks for listening to the broadcast today.